Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. I hope you all had an amazing weekend, and in this video we're taking a look at GoCollect's trending comics for the week of February 19th. Now don't get that confused with the hottest comics of the week. Trending comics is a list that Matt Tuck also does, but it is a little more curated, and it's going to be a good list today because we're going to talk about a lot of books that have been really popping off in the market, like that new Avengers #7, and we're going to really dig into the numbers with this one and see if we can have general takeaways for the comic industry this week. But before I get into the list, if you guys could drop me a like or comment or subscribe, you guys know the drill, and help support the channel. All right, let's get into the list this week. And of course, it is written by Matt Tuck. I'll put a link in the description. But let's talk about this book in the #5 spot. And this one, of course, is one that we've been talking about a lot recently. And that, of course, is Star Wars #42, except that this is a book that is not trending upward. Rather, it is a book that is trending downward. So as you can see, it has fallen 38 spots and is now currently sitting in the 74th slot. And what is the significance of this? Well, you guys know this is the first appearance of Boba Fett in comic book form. I believe this is also the first full appearance of Yoda, but really the reason it's been moving in the market so much is because of the fact that it features Boba Fett. Now, this is a really interesting case study as far as a book, kind of taking a plunge after the show due to the fact that people didn't really love the property. Now, it is kind of a regular occurrence that once you get the movie or the TV show or whatever the case may be, the comic book takes a little bit of a dip on the other end of the film, but it doesn't always have to fall so far down. I mean, if we take a look at a lot of the books that relate to Amazing Spider-Man #3, and we take like the Sinister Six book, for instance, that book maybe has had a tiny little correction, but for the most part, it's selling at the same price that it was even, in the lead up of the hype of the movie. Similarly, like all those ASM books like Green Goblin's first appearance and Lizard's first appearance and Sandman, etc. All those books, maintain their values because there's people who really still loved the movie and there are people who are still excited about the property after the fact. Whereas, with Book of Boba Fett, I think that there were a lot of people who were really disappointed with the show. And this book has definitely seen that correction, a little bit harder than, you would normally see with a property like this. So 9.8's fair market value, $3,500. 30-day moving, however, is $3,200. I've also pulled up the GPA analysis so we can really get a sense of some of the prices on the other end of this thing. So what I'm really interested to see is like, if we look at where this book was selling, say in the lead up to the show here in December, we see a $3,500, $3,800, $3,900, $42,000. Then we get a $4,000 one here. And then, as the show kind of goes week to week and people aren't really loving it, we see the prices start to fall off: $3,200, $25,000, $38,000, $35,000, $32,000, and now $28,000. So, this is a book that, in just a month's time has really corrected back down like almost like $1,000 or so. And so, I think it's really interesting to talk about, how the perception of the film or the TV show affects the value of the book. I probably should do a, more detailed video about this specific topic, but in a situation like Star Wars 42's case has really hurt the values of this book. And then at the low end, of course, if I'm looking at this thing on eBay, it still does sell around that $200, $225 mark or so. So definitely not a cheap book, just one that has had a big correction and fallen 38 spots on this week's trending comic list. All right, let's go on now to the next book here. And the next book is a really cool one. This is Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars #7, new to the list. And what is the significance of this? Well, of course, you guys know this is the great Secret Wars storyline that came out in the 80s that would feature the black symbiote suit. But this particular book right here is the first appearance of Julia Carpenter Spider-Woman. Now, Julia Carpenter Spider-Woman, not to be confused with Jessica Drew Spider-Woman. Julia Carpenter is the one that has the black and white Spider-Woman outfit, and actually, ironically, is the Spider-Woman that I always thought was Spider-Woman because I came up in the 80s and 90s, and when I thought of Spider-Woman, I thought of Julia Carpenter. But this book right here, Julia Carpenter made her first appearance in Secret Wars #7, and one of the reasons that this book has been trending upward as of late is that, we recently got that Madam Web announcement that we're going to be getting the film in the Sonyverse, and certainly that Spider-Man book with Madam Web's first appearance has definitely taken off into the market. But, speculators are going to speculate and people are going to make those deep cuts, and a lot of people have been connecting Julia Carpenter with the Madam Web storyline and thinking that, maybe this is going to be the way that they bring bring Spider-Woman into the Sonyverse and that they might do the Julia Carpenter version. You know, currently we got Jessica Drew, who's going to be showing up in the Miles movie. So maybe they don't want to confuse audiences and they might use the Julia Carpenter version of Spider-Woman in the Madame Web universe. So definitely a long-term spec, but one that is really interesting and still a cool book and a cool character nonetheless. Here at the graded level, we see the 9.8s fair market value selling around the $270 range, although you can see 30-day moving, however, is around $315. So definitely a book that like was speculated on, you know, like every book was last year in 2021, had that big dip, and then now here it's starting to trend up once again. So a book that, you know, has been rising slightly in value. If I look at the GPA analysis here, we can see, you know, some of the recent sales, which, you know, there has been one that, you know, sold for $512 here in February 16th. Don't really know if that's kind of an anomaly number, but you can see, generally speaking, we see these sales going around the $300 range or so, which is more than, you know, what it was selling just a couple months ago. So Secret Wars number 7, first appearance of Julia Carpenter's Spider-Woman, is the 4th trending comic on the list this week. All right, let's go on now to the 3rd trending comic, and the 3rd trending comic is another Star Wars book. This is Star Wars number 2, which is new to the list, sitting in the 54th spot. And what is the significance of this? Well, of course, you guys know this is the first appearance of Obi-Wan Kenobi in comic book form. It's the first appearance of Han Solo and Chewbacca as well. But one of the reasons I think it is starting to trend, at least in terms of this week, is because now that we're on the other end of Book of Boba Fett, you know, what's the next Star Wars property we're going to be getting? Well, that's going to be the Obi-Wan Disney Plus show that's going to be coming out at the end of May. Now, I don't know why this picture is so small. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Oh, look at that potato quality right there. Anyways, Star Wars number 2, first appearance of Obi-Wan Kenobi, a book that, you know, is slowly starting to trend up, but it's going to be interesting to see if people really jump on this book in the way that we did with, you know, the Book of Boba Fett and Star Wars 42. Like, I feel like right now people are hesitant towards the Star Wars brand and putting, you know, too much money in it. And I think that, you know, this book's values kind of reflect that, because while there have been sales for this book, they haven't really been flirting with those same numbers that they were hitting, say, last year. So it is really interesting to think about, you know, if Obi-Wan's first appearance here is going to be able to, you know, keep up with that comic book market trend of books getting really, really hot. But then again, you know, we haven't seen any images yet for this book. We haven't seen any trailers. And I think once we start to get those first trailers and those first images of Ewan McGregor, I mean, this book is definitely going to start lighting up the lamps, so to speak. So as we go here down to the 9.8s, we see 138 on the census, $2,500 fair market value, 30-day moving average, though there hasn't been one. So you can tell that, like, you know, not a lot of 9.8 sales, but you can see back in 2021, this book was hitting that $4,300 range, then definitely had a big correction. Last sale was in December for $3,150. So, you know, a book that, you know, is still really, really pricey, definitely kind of in that Star Wars 42 level, but not necessarily one that has, you know, been hitting its peaks like it did last year. At the 9.6 grade, fair market value $925, but you can see 30-day moving for this one is actually only $638. So a book that, you know, is really interesting right now, considering that we're going to be getting the Obi-Wan show next in the Star Wars universe, and definitely a book that is slowly starting to trend. I mean, that's one of the reasons why it's showing up on the Go Collect list, but has yet to hit those new record high numbers. Let me know what you guys think about this book. Is this a book that you guys would want to be speccing on? How do you feel about the Star Wars universe in general? Like, is that something that you guys want to be investing in right now? Or is it more like a sit and wait situation to see, like, if the Star Wars universe is actually going to get, like, the fans back on board with their properties? And lastly, just to throw it out to you guys, you know, at the low grade of this, or at least in the raw form, when I go onto eBay looking for this book, I can see it being sold around the $125 and $150 range or so. All right, let's go on now to the hottest comic in the market, the hottest comic of the year. This one, of course, is New Avengers number 7, new to the list, sitting in the 23rd spot. So definitely a huge spike in the market. If you are new to the list and you jump all the way up to the 23rd spot, that means that you are being sold quite frequently. But this, of course, is the first appearance of the Illuminati, a book that came out in 2005, written by Brian Michael Bendis. You guys know this book. You guys know why it is hot. Coming off the heels of the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness trailer, we got that first look at the Illuminati. We got the Professor X voice in the background, and everybody now is talking about Illuminati. I mean, how many YouTube videos have been put out there with, like, you know, 53 Easter eggs of the Illuminati, or like red circles pointing to, like, who all the characters might be in this particular team right here. So this book has absolutely blown up the market, a lot of sales going on with this thing. And it's definitely interesting because, with books like this, you always have to wonder, what are the potential ceilings for this book? Like, what values should this book be hitting, and how much of a factor is the Illuminati going to be playing in the MCU, even past that of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness? But as we dig into the numbers for this one, we'll see that the 9.8's fair market value was 260. At least that was what the fair market value was, before we got the trailer. It was a book that was being sold around that $250 level. And then 30-day moving average, it says 424. But, we had to go into the GPA for this one to see what the recent sales for this book were. And if you can just look at this graph right here, you can see how astronomical these prices have gone off in the last, couple weeks or so. And so I made a video about this, the other week, where I talked about, some of the recent sales for this thing. And when we got that announcement, was probably right around February 14th or so. We saw a book sell for $700. We see another one here sell for $1,600, although that seems like an anomaly number, so I'm not ready to qualify that as an actual sale yet. But just to rewind the clock at the beginning of the year, you can see this is a book that sells typically around the 250, 260, 270 range. And then here, in the recent days, it feels like it's kind of starting to level off around that $600, $550 range or so, which is still, twice as expensive as it was, say before we got the trailer. And it'll be interesting to see like where this book goes from here. All right, which brings us to the last book on the list, the #1 trending book on the Go Collect list. And this one, of course, is one that we can't stop talking about. It is Moon Knight, #1, up 7 spots back in the #1 slot. So, maybe there was a time where it dipped out of the #1 slot, but now it's back in there. And this, of course, is the first solo series for Moon Knight, a book that came out in 1980. I feel like I don't need to, do my preamble about this book for you guys anymore. You guys are very, very well aware of what this book is. But what I did want to do is kind of look at some of the values of this book and see, kind of where it sits currently in the market, at least at the 9.8 level. It feels like, it was a book that was definitely hitting that 4-figure threshold, especially here in January, which is maybe around the time when we were getting that first trailer. We see a bunch of sales here, 1,000, 1,000, 1150, 1070, 1,200, 1325, 1025. But now recently, kind of in this February month, we can see that the book is now kind of sitting back around that $950 range, which of course is still, a very, very expensive book, considering where this was, say, a couple months ago. But it definitely feels like where the prices are now at kind of that $950 range. It feels like if you're someone out there who wanted this book at that 9.8 level, you probably already have it. Those are the people who, bought in at that 4-figure range, and now it's at that $900 range. So it's going to take, the week-to-week episodes of the show for this book to be pushed over that, $1,000 plateau consistently, because, we're going to need to manufacture more demand for this book. So it'll be interesting to think about, like, if the Moon Knight show is really, really successful, like let's say it's the best Disney Plus show that comes out, since we've had Marvel on Disney Plus, I could definitely see this book, consistently maintaining that $1,000 threshold. But if the show is just sort of mediocre, or, people aren't really loving it, then, I think that this book is going to have that pull back down to, say, that $700, $800 level or so. But ultimately, time will tell with this one. I mean, I think it's still a great book to get your hands on. So hard to say exactly what the proper values for this book would be, or where they should basically be leveling off, after we get the show. But once we get the show, if it is really, really successful, I could see it creating a whole new, wave of Moon Knight fans and people who may want to be buying that book right there. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. That was Go Collect's trending comics for the week. Do you guys have any of these books? Are you guys hunting any of these books? Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I will see you in the next video.